Hey guys, welcome to Season 2, Episode 2 of Taming Diaries with Iodine. This episode is going to be slightly different from usual because there's been a lot of crazy stuff going on the last couple of weeks. If you follow me on Twitter, you're already up to date with everything that's happened, and if you don't follow me on Twitter, go and follow me on Twitter. That's how you stay up to date with things. After I finished filming episode 1 of Taming Diaries, I was out of the country for a week and the hamsters were staying with a pet sitter who, of course, I didn't expect to be handling them. So when I came back, I wanted to make sure Iodine was still trusting of me, still up to date with everything that we'd done, all the progress she'd made, and I spent that first week back just doing the things that I showed you in the first episode. Now, I decided not to film any of that because I felt it was a little bit samey and you guys might find it a bit boring and a bit repetitive. The plan was just to catch Iodine up in that first week and then the following week to start filming for episode 2. Except there was a bit of a hiccup. For the last few weeks I have been very sick, and that is the reason why A, there haven't been as many videos as usual on my channel, and B, why I haven't actually filmed anything for episode 2. I am on the mend though, and I'm feeling so much better than I have been. I've got a little way to go yet, but I'm past the point of being contagious, which means I can hang out with my hamsters again. And so that you guys don't have to wait any longer for the next episode, I'm going to be doing this episode slightly different, and instead of being a week-long vlog, you guys are going to be joining me for today's entire taming session, and you'll get to see some of the progress that Iodine did make in that first week when I was back. So I hope you enjoy. If you do, don't forget to leave a thumbs up, and don't worry, episode 3, things will be back to normal. You ready to come out and play? Iodine. Come on then, let's go. Good girl. Currently I'm sitting in the very poorly lit, very echoey shower room because this is our hamster safe room for playtime, and Iodine is out and about. She's running along, don't mind my pyjama bottoms, exploring all the little toys. We've got some plants out today. Let's give you a quick tour around the area. We have a nice cardboard box. We have a carpeted ramp up into a box that is just filled with shredded kitchen tissue, and there's a little door at the bottom as well so she can dig her way through. We've got a couple of tubes, a walnut which I've cracked a small hole into just to entice her. We've got a little bridge, a mint plant, an empty cookies box, a chew toy, the forage toy that I made a couple of weeks ago, her climbing frame, and a spider plant. So as you saw in that first clip, Iodine is getting so much more confident about climbing onto my hand. She is straight into the spider plant. That is one of her favourite plants to munch on, and it's perfectly safe. If you're going to give your hamster spider plants though, just don't give them ones with flowers on because the seeds can be dangerous. But she's getting much more confident. I did carry her from her cage all the way into here, which is a huge improvement. And I'm just going to give her a few minutes to run around, explore, wear off some of her excess energy before we go on with the taming session. Oh, she's gone again. You're a little energetic ball of fluff, aren't you? Hey! What you doing? After Io's had a bit of time to run off this excess energy, the main step I will be focusing on today is just continuing to get her used to being held. Since she's doing so well with that step at the minute, I just want to keep encouraging her to be confident when being held and to get used to just climbing across my hands, climbing from hand to hand, and if she wants to, climbing up my arms onto my shoulders like Potassium likes to do. And I think the rest of this week's taming sessions will be focusing on the exact same thing, so you won't be missing out on too much this week. Although every single hamster is different and they will all tame at different speeds, I certainly find with most of them, once you get past those initial trust steps, the first couple of steps that I showed you in episode 1, their taming tends to progress really quickly. So I think from this point, now that she's happy with being held and even happy with me carrying her from room to room, I think Iodine is just going to whiz through the rest of her taming, and it's going to be probably only a week or so before I can consider her fully tamed. So I have a feeling episode 3 may be the last episode. Not sure yet, we'll see how things go. By the way, in case you're not familiar with the playpen or bathtub taming methods, it is very similar to what's going on right now, where I am sat in the playpen or hamster safe room or bathtub with the hamster, and you basically just sit here. This is usually done in the early steps of taming with a hamster that hasn't taken so well to normal taming methods or alternative taming methods, and you just sit in the room with them and allow them to run around you. You don't really interact with them at all. You just let them get used to you being there and allow them to come up to you in their own time and learn that you are not a threat to them. So in case you haven't found much success with other taming methods, this is certainly something to try doing. So Io's had a little bit of time to wear herself out now. I don't want her to completely wear out, otherwise she will just get frustrated with taming. And this is all I'm going to be doing with her. It's very simple, very straightforward. Just letting her climb back and forth between my hands. After a little while of doing this with your hamster, they will get into a bit of a rhythm just running between your two hands, but always be aware that they can zip out of your hands at any second, or they could just zip up your arm, so don't get too complacent. Another thing I should mention is before you do start handling your hamster, regardless of whether it's tame or not, make sure you clean your hands first, because you never know what you could have on them, and if your hands smell like food or they smell like something that the hamster isn't familiar with, or even if your hands have just been sweaty that day, it can actually entice the hamster into having a nibble on your hands, which is usually perfectly fine, it doesn't normally hurt, but it can sometimes encourage them to bite. So just be aware before handling a hamster, always wash your hands, and also just to stop the spread of bacteria, because again, you don't know what you've been touching, what you've got on your hands, and you wouldn't want to pass anything nasty onto your pet. Now, if you find that even after washing your hands, your hamster still tries to have a bit of a nibble, try rubbing your hands in the substrate that is currently in their cage. And I do mean properly rubbing your hands in there, rubbing all over them, and that will transfer the scent that they're used to, the scent of their home, onto your hands and make them less likely to have a nibble, because you'll smell more familiar. Now, I don't know if you guys can tell on the camera, but Iodine has started to pick up her pace a little bit, and she's seeming a bit more frantic. Now, that's just because she's getting a bit annoyed with this, so I am going to put her down and let her have another run around, and then we're going to do this again in a few minutes' time. It's really important to know when your hamster is getting bored of the taming sessions and to know when to give them a break, otherwise you're just going to undo all of your hard work. Ultimately, the length of time you spend taming your hamster each day will vary from hamster to hamster. It really depends on their own personal attention spans, but usually you're not going to be able to do much more than 15 or 20 minutes before the majority of hamsters will get totally fed up by you. Now, I would actually say it's more beneficial to do shorter taming sessions more often. So if your hamster is more active in the daytime, definitely take advantage of that. Anytime you see them up and about, give them just 5 or 10 minutes of taming and then put them back, and then later on in the day, if they're up and about again, or later in the evening, you can do another taming session. There's definitely not a limit on how many sessions you can do in a day. It's just the length of each session that you have to keep fairly short in order to stop them getting frustrated.